If you currently have just one job, this video is going to be eye-opening. Having one corporate job used to be very normal. You could always get ahead and create an amazing life for you and your family if you and your spouse both worked. You could have a nice house, send your kids to a great college, and still take tons of vacations and really just build a beautiful life and have financial security. However, one of the biggest silent risks that you can have in 2026 is having just one source of income. Due to inflation, AI disruption, and the US economy, all these three forces are coming together and making the economy really tough. It's really hard to save. Your dollar is devaluing and people are losing jobs, and there's a record amount of time for people to get their next job. But despite all of that, despite all the doom and gloom, there has been this huge growing trend of job stacking, working more than one job. And we are the biggest company that is helping people stack remote jobs. We've helped over 400 people land remote jobs in the last year and a half. And it's fascinating how working two remote roles can transform your life without you having to burn out and work a crazy amount of hours. So stick around till the end where I break down every reason why having one paycheck leaves you risky. You can decide for yourself if one job or two jobs makes more sense for you. And I'm going to give you the roadmap to being able to work multiple remote roles if that's something you're interested in. Just like the 400 people we've helped do so, from Meta, Netflix, Airbnb, Google, ESPN, Accenture, and more. Let's jump in. All right, so why is having one job riskier than ever? There are three forces I mentioned above, and we're going to break down all three of them in detail. So one is AI disruption. This is the one that's in the news all the time. I'm sure you see headlines every single day on social media about how AI is going to take your jobs. Now, we're going to break down the nuances of this, but as you can see, these AI tools that we use on a daily basis are getting better and better and better. Do you guys remember that viral video of Will Smith eating spaghetti from the first AI platform that does video maybe a year and a half ago? It was hilarious. It was a joke. It was not threatening. Just a year and a half later, the AI videos we see in 2026 are mind-blowing. I personally no longer use a video editor for my short form reels because there's an AI tool that can edit that video better than my editor could in the first place. So if we take that specific example and look at others as well, like Waymo, the AI car company, that's just one example. If we look at Waymo here in Austin, Texas, it is completely normal to get in a robo-taxi and have it take you A to B. People don't even bat an eye at it. And the concept of a robot driving your car was this that's never gonna happen idea even just 2 to 3 years ago. It was something that would be cool, but seemed so far off. And think about the amount of disruption, all the people who rely on Uber for their income, that is slowly, completely getting wiped out. But here's the nuance thing. I don't necessarily think AI will take your job this week, this month, or this year. However, most jobs that are task-based and not highly strategic are likely to be automatable in the near future. And I mentioned this earlier, but on average, it takes 5.5 months for someone to get a job today, which is crazy. And it's not just AI disruption, it's a combination of that and just the economic tension that we currently have. However, that's pretty scary because if the average household has 10K per month in expenses, if you are unemployed for 5.5 months, that's $55,000 of your bank account completely vanishing. Hope to God you have that much saved. 1/3 of Americans have more debt than they do savings, meaning when this type of stuff happens, they just go crazy in debt and there's no crawling out of that hole. We talk to people every single day like that. And on top of that, October 2025 had the biggest month of layoffs in 22 years in US history, which is pretty crazy. So layoffs are rising. Some of it's AI, some of it's other stuff. But all that said, do you have enough financial security to weather that storm? Plenty of people who decide to stack remote roles, which is a whole thing. I have plenty of videos about it. The reason for doing so is even if you're an amazing employee, you could get let go just because of budget cuts and the balance sheet in a bad financial quarter, and you get left high and dry. I worked 7 years in corporate. I saw it over and over and over again. Even the worst, saddest examples are the people who are such good employees, but they've been around so long, they've gotten pay raises, and now it's like, well, we could just get 2 of him for half price and replace him. I've seen that happen. Someone who was a lifer at this company. It was really sad to see. But all that said, AI disruption is a huge force and it should be taken seriously. Now, how about inflation? So outside of your ability to get fired on a whim and then making it really hard for you to find that next role, inflation is silently eating all the money you do have in your bank account. So currently in the United States, every dollar that exists in all of circulation, 25% of those dollars were created in the last 5 years of the United States, which is crazy to think about. So that simple data point shows how much money printing we're currently doing. And the third point, these two tie in together, so I want to tee it up, is the US debt cycle and the US economy. So Ray Dalio has this whole concept of the different stages of any empire, the US empire being one of them, and we're at the unfortunate tail end of a cycle that typically happens where you grow, you grow, you grow. It's all based on debt, and then your debt gets to a point that everything crumbles and erodes, and it's happened with literally every empire in human history. We are at a 125% debt to GDP ratio. And historically, anytime that got above 130% for any global empire besides Japan, they had a complete economic meltdown. And we're only 5% away from that. And that is likely to happen in the next few years. So there's a lot of uncertainty related to the debt itself, but tying it back to inflation, the only way out of debt is to print more money. So we might say, hey, if we just print more money, we can pay off our debt, which solves the short-term problems and prevents us from defaulting on all our debt. However, every time we print more and more money, the money you have in your bank account buys less and less and less goods. So if you have 100K or even 150K salary, the buying power of that is going to keep going down. So all three of these forces culminate together to create a soup of making it really hard for you to get ahead. And that's why for the first time in modern American history, children today are not teed up for better life quality than their parents. Quality of life is actually going down for new adults entering the job market who want to buy homes, who want to start families, than it was for their parents, which is really tragic. So if this stuff resonates with you, if you're listening to this and you're like, dang, this is really serious, I want to take this seriously, I want to make sure I'm financially insulated from whatever's going on, make sure you like this video, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, because we exist to make sure you not only survive but thrive in this crazy AI transformation. Now, back to the video. Here is the number one thing that people mistake when it comes to their job search and how they think about their career. They think the harder I work, the more money I make. This is traditional. I was stuck in this trap for a long time. It is the concept of, well, if I just climb the corporate ladder, I'll get a raise, because that is just the main way to secure in your role. If you're a high performer, you will be rewarded. I won't get fired, etc. Like I mentioned before, I've seen firsthand people do really well in the role, but because the company decides to axe an entire segment of their organization because they're restructuring, this is happening in the news every day. These big companies are deleting huge chunks of their business so they can reinvest in AI. So the people who are just trying really hard in their role are not necessarily the people earning more. I'm definitely not saying don't try in your job. I think it is really important to be a high performer no matter what you pursue, but I want to offer a different approach, and it's how you frame yourself in the job market. Now, we've helped so many people, hundreds, land additional remote jobs on top of the one they currently have, doubling their income. Because if you try to climb the ladder going from manager to director, you might go from 120K to 160, which sounds good on paper. However, you could go from 120 to 240 by stacking two of the same jobs, delivering results, but doing it more efficiently and effectively. The next common misconception is, if I don't want to get let go from my role, shouldn't I just get really good with AI so I'm irreplaceable? I do think that everyone should learn all the AI tools. However, they will not protect you from layoffs and from losing your role and putting yourself in a really tough financial position. Here's why. One, like we talked about before, companies are optimizing for profitability and future disruption. So even if you learn all the AI tools, but you're in a part of the organization that ultimately is not the most profitable, the entire part of that organization will probably get axed so that that company can reinvest resources into AI and into more bleeding edge things. So even if you're good at AI, but you're in a role that isn't seen as super critical to the future of the company, you will get let go. Two is, all these AI tools are becoming standardized. So just because you're good at them doesn't mean anything if everyone else on your team is as well. They're just going to become table stakes. So you are not going to save yourself by just getting really, really good with AI tools. And lastly, if these AI tools are making you so efficient at your job that it only takes about 30% of your time to get all those results, companies are going to start asking the question, why am I paying this person all this money to get this result I could hire someone in South America to do for way, way, way cheaper? And all that stuff builds up and does make you very replaceable in your role, even if you're very good with AI tools. Now, what actually creates security in 2026? I'm going to break down the top 3 most realistic paths that anyone can pursue. One is, you could just climb the corporate ladder like we talked about, right? You could keep working one job. You could get that increased salary by 20, 30, 40K, which could be fine. But if we want to hopefully become a millionaire in roughly 6 years, so we can set aside a legitimate amount of income in case anything bad happens and our family is insulated, there's almost no way by math you can make that happen. You'd have to have a 2-income household, both making great money, saving a lot, and you're still not going to quite get there. You might have a little bit of savings, but working one job is almost never going to get you to the financial place you want for all the reasons described above. Option 2 is entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship has been very good to me. However, over 90% of all businesses fail miserably. So statistically, 5-6 years from now, you're more likely to have an even or negative net worth if you were to go all in on entrepreneurship and try to start a business. However, I had to fail 5 or 6 different businesses before this one was successful. So I am actually more of that same statistic, where I started a bunch of different companies. I have been in the entrepreneurship space for 6 or 7 years before I actually had all the skills needed to succeed. Entrepreneurship is very challenging because everything is uncertain and you have to master 10 or 20 different skills to actually be successful. You can't just be good at the fulfillment. You have to be good at marketing, sales, communication, all the random stuff, and it takes time and you fail a lot. So statistically, it's very unlikely for anyone to actually make a lot of money in entrepreneurship unless they pour years and years of failure into it to do well. And the third path is working multiple remote jobs. Now, this is what I did initially. I went from earning 80K per year to 390K per year. Back in 2023, I went from a single product manager job to 3 all at the same time. My second role, I went from 80 to 160, and then I added a 150K job on top of that. It was awesome. I was making 30K plus a month. Taxes are way better than they are when you're an entrepreneur, and I was living. It was amazing. It allowed me to save up a ton of money, ultimately allowed me to invest into building a business because that's what I wanted. There are plenty of people who just work multiple remote jobs and that's just their thing. There's no like future thing beyond that for them. And it can change your life because you don't need to learn new skills. You just need to do more of what you're already doing. So if you do have to learn a skill, it's more about just how do I get more efficient in the jobs I'm currently working, which is way less risky. Now, if you're hearing all this and your skepticism alarm is going off, that's totally warranted. It makes sense, especially if you're new to the concept of job stacking and haven't really gone deep into exploring it. All I can say is 400 plus people have come to us and we've successfully helped them get more interviews and land remote offers for additional remote jobs because what are the driving factors here? One is efficiency. With these AI tools, we can get work done so much faster than we used to. You can rely on AI tools to be so much more efficient in your role, and most companies work at a pretty slow pace. So as long as you're not the slowest person on the team, the company can still get an ROI on your time. They can still get a ton of output from you as it relates to the different projects that are going on and be none the wiser and not even care the fact that you're working multiple roles. They don't even think to ask that question because you are a high performer. Two is, isn't it risky to work multiple jobs? It absolutely is risky. Everything in life has a risk. As we've talked about, there are tons of risks to having just one remote job. There are also risks with having 2 jobs. Only go as fast with job stacking as you can maintain high quality output work. If you keep your employers happy, then stack. But if you're struggling to maintain your workload, think about getting rid of that second job, going back to just one. The risks set in if you're trying to balance too much and all your employers become unhappy. That's how you get found out and let go. But if you can just do those basic things, you can have all the upside with very low risk. And 3 is I don't have time because my current job is already too busy and crazy. That could very well be true. There are plenty of jobs that this isn't going to work well for. When I was setting out to do this myself, I was like, I'm going to make 500K across 3 jobs. And if I get into a job and it ends up not supporting my vision, I was ready and willing to leave that job. Now, my first job, I got down to literally just a few hours a week. It was a big healthcare company. It was super slow and the bar was super low. So I was like, this one is easy. If I can just find a few more like this, I'm golden. Fortunately, my second and third job were both not that crazy and I was able to do it. I didn't have to quit. However, if you can set up a system where you're getting 20 interviews a month like we provide for people, it's a much more a game of choice. You're not relying on like, well, I got a job offer, so I better take it because I'm probably not going to get another offer. We want to see people getting at least 1 to 2 offers a month, kind of on autopilot so that they have more choice. That said, also, if you've never entered a job saying, how can I get my results in less time? You're very unconditioned to making this possible. Anyone in a job where they're currently working 40 plus hours a week, they probably never actually thought about, hey, how do I get way more efficient in my role? How do I get this so dialed so I can pull myself out of it? If you're not asking that question, you're not going to see all the opportunities in front of you because there are so many ways you can become more efficient if that's your objective. So I bet even just as a mental exercise, if you're this person where you're like, I don't think there's any way I could do my job in less than 40 hours a week, set that intention this week. Hey, can I carve off 5 hours of work per week? What could I theoretically do? Are there any meetings that we could get rid of because they're not that efficient? Can I delegate more to my team? Can I employ some AI tools to help me do some of this redundant work? What can I systematize? What can I automate? All these things can help people get way more efficient if they're focused on it. So after watching this video, we've broken down all the risks of having just one job. And if you have just one paycheck right now, I really urge you to consider how you're going to reduce that level of risk you're currently exposed to and actually create the financial security you might need in case we have a big swing in the economic environment in the United States. And in the next video, I'm going to break down exactly how I went from earning 80K to 390K per year. I'm going to break down the entire system that allowed me to create financial security through job stacking in an ethical and sustainable way. And if you want to explore if me running your job search for you, often guaranteeing placement in 90 days for those who qualify, is a fit for you, you can click the link below to learn more, and we'll see you in the next video.